Part 76. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 757. Gu Yufan woke up with a rush of telephone ringing. He was so excited that he realized that the person in his arms was no longer there, but there was a sound of rattling water in the bathroom, presumably she was taking a bath. The caller was female number 1, Gu Yufan picked up the phone. Female number 1 asked him to go to her villa for a party together on the weekend, and Gu Yufan pushed him out by himself. The other side of the phone laughed. "Why, are you going to hang out with your girlfriend?" Gu Yufan also laughed. "Well, I used to be busy with my career and ignored her. I wanted to spend more time with her." Female number 1, "Wow, I do not even have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend. Single dogs do not like to listen to you at all, hang me up, goodbye." Gu Yufan dropped his phone and rushed into the bathroom. Envious of being so jealous by the female number 1, he immediately felt happier. Sure enough, happiness is all contrasted. The two had a bit of trouble in the bathroom, and Gu Yufan became a knight of chanting song again. Then he happily hugged chanting song out of the bathroom, and then helped chanting song to dress well. When Gang Yan Song wore a bra, he still remembered to rub his chest and praise, "It's a lot bigger here." "It's not that big, and the hood looks the same as before." Yan Ji smiled suddenly. "I also feel a lot bigger, keep up the hard work, you continue to rub more in the future, beyond C to E is not a dream." Gu Yufan loves to hear this. What does this mean? He only rubs her chest. No one else. Gu Yufan simply pressed Yanj on the bed, rubbing his hands vigorously. Enough was enough, and this was neatly out of the room. Gu Yufan checked the city's more famous cuisines and consulted Yanj's opinions. "Yanj has no opinion, I haven't been here before, we can all taste it." At the end, he asked Gu Yufan again, "Will you be a bit troublesome if you go out?" Gu Yufan immediately shook his head, "It's okay, it's not troublesome at all." He wore a yellow, non-mainstream wig, a little mustache, a pair of big blue frame glasses, and a little exaggerated hip-hop suit. No one dared to put him touch porcelain on Gu Yufan's body. Yanj turned around in surprise and looked at him for a few laps. "Who did you learn with this set? It's kind of awesome. Most of the celebrities don't all wear baseball caps and masks, plus extra large sunglasses. Come to him, this dress is a bit too careless." "Gu Yufan, I bought it on Doubai. I plan to use it when we go out and play together." Yan Ji nodded, but didn't ask him where to play in a while. Obviously, Gu Yufan was a little bit frustrated, but when she took her hand out of the house immediately, she was happy to be able to walk together outside in the sun like this. "Don't drive in the middle of the night," Gu Yufan told her very seriously, "it's too dangerous. If you have something, you can call me. If you miss me, call me to your side. You are still my master. Well, I must be on call." Yan Ji laughed when he heard the words, "I'm so scared of death. How could Daewon drive here? I came here to see my friend, and he drove his car, not far from your hotel, less than 10 minutes. He didn't quite believe that her license plate was from Beijing." "Mimi, do you have a job now? Why did you suddenly ask about this?" After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 758. Gu Yufan said quickly, "If a person is bored and want to do something, I will help you find a job to pass the time, or you can be my personal assistant. In this way, you can be close every day." Yanj shook his head, "I'm still in school. I'll wait for graduation after a while and think about work." Gu Yufan looked at her in surprise, "Go to school?" "Well," Yanj said, "you are stepping up, and I can't stay on the same foot. I have been studying for this period of time. I have skipped 2 levels, and it won't take me long to graduate." Gu Yufan. For the first time, he knew she was studying so hard. Moreover, the hindsight finally understood why she didn't always return his message. It should be that she was too busy in her studies, rather than being half-hearted. He suddenly wanted to ask her in particular, and asked if she had any contact with that person. But when it came to the mouth, it turned into another, Mimi is amazing. Of course. The little girl was so proud of her smile, and her eyebrows were so bright that they were so beautiful. He squeezed her hand tightly, and the idea that had just been crushed suddenly burst out again. She is so good, but any man who knows her is definitely not so easy to let go. The two had lunch and turned around in the city's more famous spots. In the evening, I went to a movie. When we came out of the cinema, there was a drizzle of rain outside. Gu Yufan wanted an appointment for a taxi, but Yan Ji stopped him. It's not raining much, let's go. It happens to be too much at night and needs to be digested. Gu Yufan nodded, yes. After walking for a while, he said softly, Mimi, our affairs, let's announce to the public, will you be my girlfriend? Broke with that person, and since then, be a little woman alone. His voice was soft, with a little careful temptation and request inside. Yan Ji slightly tilted his head and looked at him, Yufan, we are just trading, you should find a girl who has feelings for you as your girlfriend. Gu Yufan thought of her rejecting him, but never thought that she would reject him with such words. Is there no relationship between her and him? In the beginning, she liked him so much. She even found a gold master for him. Everything he did for her today was for him. How could she have no feelings for him? Or, does she feel that he has no affection for her and only benefits? Mimi, I like you, he looked at her, and the tenderness in his eyes couldn't be changed. I like it very much. No one can replace the position of your girlfriend except you. Yan Ji stared at him, and suddenly laughed, Yufan, don't be kidding, we said yes at the beginning, not about feelings, but about benefits. Gu Yufan heard her questioning, a little in her heart, Mimi, don't you like me? I like it, Yanj said, I don't like you, why should I sleep with you? She did not wait for Gu Yufan to speak, and continued to say, but the relationship between you and me is based on interests. Yufan, the relationship is too much trouble, we are so good now, take whatever you want. She has a soft voice and a bit of tolerance. He stopped and looked down at her. She glanced back at him with a smile. It doesn't seem to be retreating at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 759. It's not like a girl playing with her temper like this. She looked soft, but with a firm expression. Gu Yufan's heart fell straight down. Mimi, he asked slowly, what do you mean? Yanj's response was not as hesitant as he was, you want to be a star, I want to sleep with you, we always have our own needs. Gu Yufan stared at Yan Ji's still smiling eyebrows. He felt as if he had suddenly opened a hole in his heart, and the torrential storm was roaring wildly and beating. She likes him, so-called like, is she just sleeping on him? He felt incredible and extremely uncomfortable. But he didn't dare to confirm with her again. He just asked her, after a brief encounter, how can I be my girlfriend? He thought that since she always liked him, it was natural for him to become his girlfriend. But now she was surprised to meet her eyes. Perhaps her love for him was only limited to the love of men and women. Just sleep. Although ridiculous, the idea took root at the moment he appeared in his mind, making him feel ridiculous and convinced. Yan Ji looked at him and did not respond. Such a silence made Gu Yufan feel suffocated, feeling that his body was so empty, he lowered his head and kissed her lips. No longer the tenderness of the past, he hugged her tightly, manipulative and rude, and seemed to want to plunder her mind in this way, plunder her whole person. Yan Ji moved his lips and bit his tongue. The taste filled the mouths of the two. Gu Yufan was completely awakened by the tingling. He bowed his head and met her clear eyes, and those eyes looked at him so unblemished. It seemed like a sword that could reflect his wobbly figure, which caused him a moment of physical and mental pain. He let go of her lips. The blood on her lips, the red demon, he couldn't help but put the lips back on and mumbled, Mimi, Mimi, stop contacting that man, okay, just with me just as my master, I will listen to you no matter what you say. He doesn't care what she likes him or what he likes, as long as she can be with him, even if she only likes to sleep with him, he doesn't care. He felt like he was enchanted, thinking about it, and only wanted her. Yanj waited until he was finished, then said, I won't be a girlfriend, I will only be the wife of another person's life, and my girlfriend will be an ex-girlfriend in the end. I am not interested in this kind of title. He froze, away from her lips, facing her eyes. She wants to get married? The word was so strange, he didn't even think about marriage. Yufan, is it good for men and women to love you? If you think this relationship has affected you, we can end it at any time. There is no need to give this relationship another name. Yanj took a step back, and a car stopped by their side at this time. It was the yellow Lexus that sang. The man with the window slowly lowered, sitting in the driving position, said to Yanj, get in the car. Although the man was wearing casual clothes, he had strong facial features, his voice was heavy when he spoke, and he had the power of a superior. He spoke down and glanced at Gu Yufan. The dark eyes seemed to have an invisible cold light, which was swept by his eyes. Gu Yufan actually had the illusion that he had been scraped with a knife. The body is cold. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 760. Yan Ji smiled at Gu Yufan, Yifan, think about it, I am waiting for your reply. During this gap of speech, the man seemed to be impatient and got out of the car. An umbrella opened the hood on Yanj's head, and he took out a handkerchief and handed it to Yanj, it's time to go. The gentleman is extremely gentle, and he takes good care of the man who speaks the song. This series of actions set off Gu Yufan, who was extremely embarrassed in an instant, but he still tried to catch the song. Who is he? Could this man be the master of gold in her mouth? Hearing Gu Yufan's question, Yan Ji casually replied, it's my bodyguard, Yufan, I'm leaving, goodbye. She stooped into the back seat of the car under the man's service. The door closed the next moment, and Gu Yufan's eyes were blocked by Wang Xianjun. After getting off the car, the man never looked at Gu Yufan anymore. He closed the door with the help song, entered the driving position, and the car galloped without stopping for a moment. Gu Yufan stood still, staring at the yellow car and disappearing in the drizzle. She said the man was her bodyguard. But how is that possible? The man's momentum, and the sharpness of his eyes narrowed at random, did not look like a bodyguard, but rather her elder. But it doesn't seem that old. Even if this man didn't say a word, Gu Yufan's heart was unknowingly invisible, but he gave birth to a shame. He can't compare to this man. Either way, it is impossible. Yan Song, who was sitting in the car, was playing with the handkerchief. The white handkerchief had been wrinkled and crumpled by her. The man glanced at her from the rear view mirror and sneered, bodyguard. Yanj laughed and laughed, being a temporary player, I didn't expect your acting skills to be good. This bodyguard was cast by you into a magical three-pointer. As soon as the throttle was stepped on and loosened, the head of the song without a seat belt hit the front seat. She rubbed her forehead and complained dully and grievously, you can't say you are my fiancé, you don't agree with this marriage. This man is called Yanzimo, and is the closest date of Yan Ji. Of course, both parents are in the same circle, and the two are considered childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Although the relationship is not so good as the brother and sister, when they were young, they would say hello. This blind date, that is, the adults of the two are hot in that head. Yanj and Yanzimo are very sane. Presumably the words of the song had an effect. Yanzimo did not respond anymore, and the car drove steadily. But not long after, he said, "This little white face you raised doesn't look good. Yanj, it's just a matter of fun. After all, if the second-generation giant like the host really lacks nothing, he lacks a man to sleep with." Yanzimo frowned. "Does your parents know about you?" Yanj, "If brother Momo didn't tell them, they would never know." Yanzimo snorted again. Yanj asked him, "Is brother Zimo going back to Beijing today? It's still raining. It's not safe to drive at high speed. If you are in a hurry to go back, find a hotel and let me down. I'll wait for the plane tomorrow." Yanzimo asked her, "You came to see him in the middle of the night?" "Well," Yanj said, "don't you also want to see your apex? We two should not laugh at each other. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 761. Yan Zi Morton paused, and said, "Otherwise we'll get married, sign an agreement, and play each." "No," Yan Ji refused to think about it. "If I get married one day, I still hope that I can find an old-fashioned old man. I can play casually before marriage, but not after marriage. Marriage is very solemn to me and I will not take it be a guise of fun." Yanzimo didn't speak anymore. He took a song to a hotel. I opened the room for Yanj in person and sent Yanj into the room. Entering the door, procrastinating, did not mean to leave. Yanj leaned obliquely at him. "Anything else?" Brother Zimo didn't shout. "This woman." When he was needed, he shouted at Brother Zimo. This was not necessary, and he immediately changed his face. Yanzimo didn't say anything. He walked to the sofa, leaned down, supported the back of the sofa with both hands, and circled the words on the sofa in his arms, "How about trying my life?" The voice was low and dumb, although it was an abstinent face, but the slightly hoarse voice had a deceptive taste. Yan Ji did not answer, and she raised her eyes to look at the features of the man in front of her. He didn't show weakness under her fussy eyes, but raised one hand and began to unbutton his clothes. The buttons were unbuttoned 3 times, and the pectoral muscles were looming. He continued to stay close to her until his face was not too close to her face, so he asked, "How?" Yanj reached out and poked him in the chest. "You can't." She said without a change of face, "I like small puppies. Men like you are all wolf-like, not the taste I like." "Little milk dog," Yanzimo raised an eyebrow. "Little milk dog will live well? Men still have wolf sex." He curled her hair with his fingers, playing with Gogo, and her dark eyes seemed to be burning, staring at her. "What? Don't dare try it." He looked down so condescendingly. He already had a sense of oppression, and now he was so provocative that he seemed more imposing. Yan Song was not weak at all. She lifted her delicate fingers and helped him to unbutton the unbuttoned button slowly. From time to time, her hot fingers touched his skin, and if there was any trembling, his skin shuddered, and she felt that the place she touched was as hot as it was on fire. His eyes grew hotter, and he stretched out his hands to pinch her wrists, holding her waist with his other hand and holding people directly in his arms, striding towards the bed. Yanj snatched his neck and laughed. "Brother Zimo, I don't like to eat grass on the edge of the nest, and I don't like people who have a business relationship with me in the future. Moreover, you have your apex and I have my little white face. It's not like there's nowhere to vent, it's not necessary." Her voice was neither ill nor slow, her smile was overflowing in her voice, and her voice was already charming, softer and softer. He threw her on the big bed, as if he hadn't heard her, and unbuttoned his clothes. She was not afraid. With her head in one hand, watery eyes wide open, staring at those exposed chest skins, saying, "Brother Zimo, smoked heart, but taboo, you must think about it, the consequences of going to bed." He put his hand on the waist of his trousers, knowing that her eyes were staring at his waist, but did not continue, but asked her, "What are the consequences?" Yan Ji cast a wink at him, "I call the police, and we will lose both." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 762. When she said this, although she still smiled softly on the face, Yanzimo knew that she was the one who could do such a thing. Simply started to buckle those unbuttoned buttons neatly. "Goodbye." The words turned away and left. It was really nostalgia. Yanj beckoned immediately to him. Hey, just leave, don't you plan to seduce me again? Maybe I will agree with you if you see me. Next time Yan Zi's head did not return. What's the point of being watched by you all at once? After that, the man has arrived at the door. Yan Ji thought he really wanted to leave, but instead of opening the door immediately, he turned his head and said to her, "Remember to take measures when playing. There is too much disorder in the world. If you are so young, you will lose more than you get." Sure enough, the seniors have experience. Thank you Zimo brother for reminding me. He has opened the door and left. Yanj stood up, got a little rain, and was always uncomfortable. After taking a bath, he lay directly in the big bed and slept soundly. Woke up the next day. It was Yanzimo's call and asked if she had booked a flight ticket. Yanj slumbered stupidly, saying casually, "No, a phone thing, don't worry." The man on the other side of the phone said, "In half an hour, I set off to return to Beijing. I would be together if I drove." Yanj, can it be done in an hour? It takes time for a woman to dress up. It is good. When Yanzimo said well, the call had been hung up. Yan Ji held his phone and stared at it for a while. The host's previous life has been around Guyufan. Yanzimo in his memory is just a brother next door, still not familiar. Although Yanj is a heartless tree, the senses are still sharp. This man named Yanzimo seemed to be full of affection for her. Is it possible that you found out that your sister has grown up to be a big beauty, so you want to play with the green plum bamboo horse? Yan Ji flipped through her phone and Guyufan sent her several messages. Ask her where she is, whether she has returned to Beijing, and ask her if her journey is smooth. Later, she asked her again, "Mimi, can't I be my girlfriend? Can you be a girlfriend running away to get married?" Yan Ji swept through all the messages he sent. Without any hesitation, he replied, "Just simple love for boys and girls. If you are tempted, we will end." Guyufan at the other end soon posted the video. The words were not answered. He was very knowledgeable and did not continue to post videos. He just kept posting words. "Mimi, you don't like me to mention this, then I don't mention it, we are as good as before." Yan Song, okay. She put down her cell phone, and practiced in bed more and more, squinting with time, and then took a bath. Lisuo got dressed and went out to call Yanzimo. As soon as I raised my eyes, I saw that the opposite door was not closed. Yanzimo leaned on the door with both hands and chest, staring at her door all the time. A glance at her face, it took an hour and no flower was painted on my face. Is it possible that it was painted somewhere else? That gaze is the chest of Xiang Xianjun. Yanj stood up and said, "I don't even have the simplest lipstick. What kind of makeup? I'm a plain face." Yanzimo's gaze fell on the white greasy part of her chest. "I'll take you to buy." After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 763. Yan Ji did not understand for a while what to buy. Buy cosmetics. After a pause, Yanzimo drew a little closer, and the hot breath flew into her ears. You can also buy me, beauty protein, I have a lot. Such a serious-looking and ascetic man, Yan Ji really didn't expect him to say such indecent words. The most important thing is that even if he said such a thing, she didn't even get bored, but she became more interested in this person. Yanj returned to him, I'm white and tender enough, I don't need whitening. It's you, how bad you look, and dark circles, you still need to wipe your face. She said nothing and had already taken the lead towards the elevator. This is not the little yellow car yesterday, but replaced it with a more comfortable business car. And this time with a driver, I don't need Yanzimo to drive in person. Yanj got in the car and asked him inquisitively, you came to the city in a panic last night just to see her. Presumably you have a good relationship. What kind of psychology do you use to hook me up? I broke up with her, Yanzimo said, just to do the finishing work. This kind of thing is not good for anyone. Yanj was surprised, big old man came here just to break up the canon? You really don't eat at all. Yanzimo glanced at the words and said, I'm not interested in breaking up guns, but I'm interested in you. He didn't wait for the words to respond, he stepped closer to her and said, I'm single now, and you want to try and be able to be with you at any time. Yanj lay down and squinted, I don't want to try it. I have a single taste and I like cream noodles. I'm not interested when you look at it. Why? Keeping dogs and wolves are very different. When raising a dog, the coefficient of being bitten is very small. The dog has been adjusted. It is a loyal dog. However, it is too easy to bite a bite. It's a bed-warming thing, and Yanji is too lazy to bother to tune a wolf. Yanzimo lay down with Yanj, and he turned his head and looked at her eyebrows. He didn't talk anymore. Still, Yanji was staring at him so hotly that he felt uncomfortable. He simply asked him, we grew up together and didn't see how good you were to me. Why do you suddenly change so big now? I remember last time we were blind dates you also said you have someone you like. Yanzimo, after falling in love with you, I fell off the stairs and hit a bag in my head. Yanji looked at him in surprise. So then, the water in my head was completely cleaned. I used to be highly myopic, but now my eyes are particularly good. So was blind? He leaned forward to get close to Yanj and looked down at the face of Yanj. Of course I'm not satisfied just looking at it like this. His fingers rubbed her eyebrows and traced them a little bit. Yanji closed his eyes and didn't care about his touch. He just asked, does it look good? Good-looking. Yanzimo pressed her finger on the center of her eyebrow, stopped, and asked softly, do you like little puppies? Yanji nodded honestly, I like it, I especially like it. Yanzimo's fingertips swung again and again, and gently poked her brows, this preference can't be changed. Yanji thought about it, I don't know. Try me. His face also touched her cheek, but he didn't act too much, just kissed her forehead, maybe you will change your preferences. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 764. Yanj, okay, when I have this need, I will try you. In this small space, there is probably no noise outside. The two people whispered and talked about more boring tea. My ex-girlfriend? The breakup so sharply was because I suddenly felt that there was no way forward and she was so tired and crooked. Isn't there anything I can't bear? No. Yanzimo thought about it, what about you, when are you and your little boy? Not tired yet, Yanj said, play for a while. Oh. Yanzimo lay back on his chair. After a while, he asked her again, aren't you in love with him? I don't like how I would spend time with him. Oh, what's it like when you sleep with him? Wouldn't it be possible for a little dog like him to kneel on the bed and bark? This kind of question has no information content. What makes Yanj do not understand is that, like Yanzimo, who really does not look like a person who will indulge in the private affairs of children, why gossip about such things? Completely subverted his design. The journey is long and Yanj seems to be lethargic, but he is actually chatting with the chicken. This Yanzimo, does he like the host? The chicken did not play mahjong with Jiwei, nor did it play a two-player game. It was lying on the sofa and smoking a pot. Hearing Yan Ji's questioning, he snorted and answered, "He doesn't like the host, he likes you." The sentence added, "I like you not only, but also you." The word up was deliberately bitten by it. Yanj said for a moment, "This is my old lover." The anxious chick with his claws scratched the messy hair on his head. The messy hair was even more messy. There is something wrong with the system. So at this time, can you ignore the old lover? Survival is the big problem. Yan Song, you seem to have said this to me. Regardless if it can't go wrong, anyway, her green leaves have been rising, and the mighty one has not threatened her anymore. Except for these two things, she really doesn't want to ignore it. As for this broken system, the garbage is backward and there is no difference if there is no problem. The chicken cub heard the song obviously incongruous, and it took another bite of the smoke pot and said frustratedly in the cloud and mist, this time there is really a big problem." Yanj is impatient with this kind of stingy emphasizing countless times that he hasn't talked about the key point. What's the big problem? The chicken sighed, "Well, I'll tell you when you come back." Words of song. Never want to ignore this guy again. The car suddenly made a bump at this time, and Yanj hadn't responded yet. She fastened her seat belt and was not thrown in the car like a ball. It should be a rollover. When the car fell quickly, Yanj did not forget to analyze the situation. According to the speed of the car rolling, it should be a slope, so instead of falling straight down, the car rolls continuously. She held the chair with both hands, guessing that in this case, the chance of survival should be a bit. Looking at him, Yanzimo was clutching the chair. But this guy's condition didn't look very good, and he didn't know that something had hit his head. His head was bleeding, and his belly was bleeding. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 765. All the non-fixed things in the car were bumping around. Yan Ji saw Yanzimo's situation, and he was really fortunate that he had not been hurt by anything. The speed of the car rolling too fast, which is such an instant, the next moment the car beeps, I don't know where it hit. The door on Yanj's side was sunken and squeezed, and she felt a sudden pain and fell into darkness. When I woke up, the first thing that came to my ears was the thumping sound. The body felt a little numb and dull, and the fans opened their eyes stupidly, and saw Yanzimo close at hand. The guy was covered with blood, and beside her, she was smashing something hard, and didn't notice she was awake. Yanj moved slightly, only to discover that her seat, including her body, was stuck. Yanzimo was at the door stuck to her lap. The car was now in a rollover condition, and Yanji glanced outward, and immediately noticed that a large pool of oil leaked out of the car. She hurriedly reached out to push Yanzimo, the car is leaking oil, you should leave quickly. Yanzimo heard the words and sang the song for a glance. Without talking, the cat climbed out of the car while wasted. Words of song. Just walk away, no matter what she is, haven't you asked her if she has any wishes? I was still recommending a pillow last moment, but now I patted my and left, which is really sad. Yanzimo returned within a few seconds after leaving. He found tools such as a hammer wrench from the toolbox in the trunk and smashed at the door where Yanj was stuck. Words of song. Seeing true feelings in adversity, Yanj was still very moved at this time. She poked at his shoulder, if the car explodes, you might die with me. Even if you can't die, you will get severe burns, aren't you afraid? Yanzimo didn't speak. He not only had blood on his face, but also sweat beads. He looked very embarrassed, but his eyes were black, which was especially calming. He slammed it several times before finally hitting the deformed door to one side. Unbuttoning Yan's seat belt, he rushed outwards holding Yanj. Only after speaking the song did I realize that my left leg was inlaid with the deformed door, and the flesh on the leg was blurred, but strangely, it was not very painful. She grabbed Yanzimo's neck, and Yanzimo placed her on a rock that was 50 meters away from the car. Yanzimo probably wanted to rush back to see the condition of the driver, but he turned around and walked a few steps. The car made a loud noise and the flames soared into the sky. Fragments of the car and stones were blown up, and Yanzimo hurried back again, pressing his words under him. Yanji did not expect the car to catch fire so quickly. Watching the raging fire, suddenly very happy. Fortunately, Yanzimo dragged her out in time, otherwise she would have to be burned alive. The task has not been completed, so just hang up, and I'm scared after thinking about it. Rarely picked up alive, Yanji pushed Yanzimo. If you save me like this, I can only agree with one's body, and with one's body, you want it, like a lifetime. The man lying on her face gave her no face at all, not even humming. Yanji turned his head to look at him, only to realize that his eyes were closed tightly, and the blood on his forehead was flowing to his eyelids. With a quiver in her mind, she reached out and pressed his neck. He wasn't dead, and there were pulsations. He felt that he was not badly injured. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 766. It's not dead. Yanji slowly pushed Yanzimo away from his body, pulled his own skirt first, and tied his thigh tightly to prevent excessive bleeding. Then he turned to look at Yanzimo's injury. He had a lot of wounds on his body, very strange. When the car rolled, the unfixed things did not hit her, but it obviously caused him no small injuries. Although there were many injuries, not many were not too fatal. The most serious wound was in the waist. Although he took off his shirt and stuck the wound, he was still bleeding. She had been slamming the door just to save her, presumably his wound that had been bleeding ceaselessly was broken by flesh and blood. She helped him to heal the wound again. Both of them were badly injured, so it would be better to take them to the hospital right away. But under this hillside is a messy forest, and I don't know how long it will take for the police to arrive even if someone calls the police. There was not much blood flow from her wound. But his blood was always flowing. The phones were burned in the car. She couldn't reach the outside world, and she couldn't hold him up the steep rocky slope. Can only squeeze his hand tightly, waiting for rescue. Waiting for others to come to rescue is really a desperate and painful thing. Yanj asked the cub, "Is there any way to hang his life?" The chicken, who was still smoking a pot of smoke, exhaled smoke and sighed again. "Would, don't you say you don't understand? What does this headless and tailless word mean, and what madness does this guy have?" Yanj asked, "What do you understand?" "He wants him to die," said the cub. "Look at the injuries on him, then look at yourself. Obviously it's a bad day." Afraid that Yanj still didn't understand it, it continued to add, "There is a kind of man who is not protected by the Tao of heaven. From the day he is born, he wants him to die. God wants him to die. Not protected by heaven." These words are really terrifying. Long-lived fairies such as Yanj and chickens are actually not protected by the heavens, but they are far from the point where the heavens want me to die. It took a long time for Yanji to digest the chicken's words. God wants him to die. Such a person must have done something unforgiving. Can you know what he did? Chicken cub, what kind of unforgiveness? Even if it is unforgiving, it hasn't reached the point where he wants to die. Maybe he wants to open a hole in heaven, so this is the case. Yanj, I always think you're talking nonsense. The chicken continued to sigh. This kind of person, How far away you can be, wherever he goes, it is a disaster. Song, are you sure? The chicken said angrily, don't say you're not sure yet. At the end, he squeaked again, don't say that you are deceived by his beauty. Yan Ji's legs hurt, and she wouldn't move at all. When she heard the words of the chicken, she stared slightly at Yanzumo's features. Good-looking men are like leeks, they are cut one after another, but there are very few interesting men, especially those who can arouse the interest in singing. The Yanzumo in front of him did look good, but what he was most interested in him was not his skin, but what was in his skin. You said, would he die? Chicken, you still worry about whether you will die first. Your mission is not completed. This is going to fail, and you don't know what you will face. As soon as Yanj thought, if she failed, she would need one less green seedling, and her scalp would suddenly hurt.